Aligning a model on human preferences used to mean PPO, Proximal Policy Optimization, a full reward model plus reinforcement learning pipeline. Then DPO, Direct Preference Optimization, skipped half of it, no reward model, no online sampling. Whether that shortcut is free or just moves the cost is today's question. Let's start.
Let's set the baseline first. Before DPO, aligning a model from human preferences meant a specific pipeline. Walk me through it. What gets trained, and where's the expensive part? You have 10 seconds to think.
Sure, it's 3 stages. You start from a supervised, fine-tuned model. Then you collect preference data. People compare 2 responses and say which is better, and train a separate reward model to predict that preference, basically a scorer for how much a human would like a response. Then the reinforcement learning stage, usually PPO, you sample fresh responses from the current model, score them with the reward model, and nudge the model toward higher scoring outputs, while a penalty keeps it close to the original so it doesn't wander off and game the score. The expensive part is that loop. Every step you're generating new samples, running a reward model and a value model alongside the policy, and the whole thing is finicky to stabilize. 3 models in play and an online sampling loop. That's the cost DPO is reacting to.
Right, that's the machinery. DPO claims you can drop the reward model and the online sampling entirely and still optimize the same objective. How is that even possible? You have 10 seconds to think.
It comes from a neat piece of math. That objective, maximize reward but stay near the reference model, has a known closed-form best policy. The reference, reweighted by the exponentiated reward. The trick is, you run it backwards. Given a policy, you can read off the reward it implies as the log ratio between that policy and the reference. So the reward stops being a separate network. It's hidden inside the policy itself. Plug that implicit reward into the usual preference loss and the reward model literally cancels out. What's left is a simple classification loss, push up the log probability of the preferred answer relative to the rejected one, scaled by a temperature-like knob. No reward model, no sampling. Just a loss on the preference pairs you already collected. That's the line from the paper. Your language model is secretly a reward model.
Slick, but nothing's free. Going offline like that, training only on the fixed preference set. What are you actually giving up compared to PPO's online loop? You have 10 seconds to think.
The big thing is fresh, on-policy signal. PPO samples from the current model every step so it always sees what the model is producing now and gets graded on that. DPO only ever sees the static pairs you collected up front. As the model shifts during training, it walks off the region that data covers and there's no new feedback out there, a coverage problem. There's also a subtler trap. DPO only optimizes the gap between chosen and rejected. It can satisfy that by shoving the rejected response's probability way down while also dragging the chosen one down just less. So both fall and the model drifts towards something degenerate or overconfident even though the loss looks great. PPO's reward model, for all its faults, keeps scoring the live outputs, which catches some of that.
Let's make that concrete. Say a DPO run looks fine, the loss is dropping, preference accuracy is high, but the actual outputs are getting worse, blander or weirdly overconfident. How do you read that? And what's the first knob you reach for? You have 10 seconds to think.
That mismatch is the classic DPO tell. Loss and preference accuracy only measure the gap between chosen and rejected, not whether you still have a good language model, so the push everything down failure I mentioned hides behind a healthy-looking curve. First knob is the temperature-like strength on the implicit reward, the beta. Set it too low and you let the policy move too far from the reference, which is exactly where the degeneration comes from. Raising it keeps the model anchored and usually calms the blandness. I'd also confirm the reference is the right fine-tuned checkpoint. Mix in a little supervised loss to hold language quality and watch the chosen response's raw log probability. If that's falling, there's your smoking gun. And if budget allows, a round of fresh on-policy data breaks the offline ceiling.
Last one, a real decision. You've got a fixed preference set, limited compute, and no infrastructure for online sampling or a separate reward model, PPO or DPO. What do you pick, and when would you change your mind? You have 10 seconds to think.
With those constraints, DPO easily. No reward model to train, no value model, no online decode loop. It fits a fixed dataset and a tight budget, and it's far less fiddly to get stable. That's exactly the situation it was built for. I'd change my mind when I'm chasing the ceiling on the hardest behaviors, safety, code, anything where the model needs correcting on its own fresh outputs. Because online RL keeps grading the live policy and tends to generalize better under distribution shift. And the honest modern answer is, it's not either or. A lot of strong pipelines run DPO first because it's cheap, then a round of online RL on top to close the last gap. So I'd start with DPO and earn my way to PPO only if the budget and the quality bar justify it.
So pulling it together, classic RLHF trains a reward model and lets PPO sample and learn online. DPO uses a closed-form trick, your model is its own implicit reward, to train straight on preference pairs, cheap and stable, but blind to anything outside that fixed data. PPO's online signal still tends to win the hardest cases and the shifts. DPO wins on simplicity. Pick by what you can afford and how far the policy will drift. If this kind of prep helps, like this episode, share it with someone who's interviewing and subscribe to Interview on your way. More and better questions are on the way.